This meeting is being recorded.
Google Cloud has been quite a bit in news. Google Cloud witnessed a 40% growth in the most recent quarter. Not only are we hearing about new customers and new use cases that they're using Google Cloud for, but we've also seen that there's been a regular cadence of launches of new offerings in the data and analytics space. Who better to walk us through Google's approach, Google's momentum, its roadmap in this modern analytical space than Bruno Aziza? Bruno, I'm so used to seeing you with Terminator glasses. Where are those?
Well, they're right here. Let's see. I have them right here for you. I'm not going to do the whole thing, the whole interview like that, but they're always right here. My car's down there. So if you want to do this from the car next time, happy to do it.
Yeah, the future is so bright, you need shades. So,
good one.
So actually, Bruno doesn't even need a lot of introduction because he's one of the most prolific spokesperson, if I may, of data and analytics industry. I have worked with him through a few of his previous companies, and I have to say he tirelessly works to keep us educated on new developments, new things that are coming up in our space. So Bruno, thank you so much for joining this episode. Such a pleasure.
Thanks for saying that, Sanjeev, and it was great. It's great to talk to you, and you know, all I do really is share with you and the community the lessons I learned from the customer. So, you know, I can't take credit for all these learnings and content. It really is the result of, you know, spending time with customers and partners. It's about 60 to 70% of my life, and so hopefully, you know, there is learnings there that people will value, and we'll talk about some of them today.
Yes, absolutely. So Bruno, since we are talking about life, can you please give us some background information as to how you ended up where you are today and where you started your career?
Sure. So Bruno Aziza, I'm French, so that's why you hear a little bit of that as an accent. I moved to the US about 20 or so years ago. I've always been in the data analytics world. I started in small companies, small startups. So I sold a couple of them in the data analytics space. I did medium-sized companies like Business Objects, for instance, grew to the Crystal acquisitions and Acta acquisition as well. Company was bought by SAP, and then also worked at Microsoft and Oracle before Google. So my entire career really has been about data and across three sizes companies: super small, medium size going IPO, and then now large ones like Google Cloud.
Very nice. Talking about the space that you've been for so long, I just feel that data and analytics industry has gone totally bonkers. There's a frenzy of new companies, new products being formed and created. But when I talk to a lot of these startups, I ask them, so who are you selling to? And I find out that the buyers are kind of the same. So everyone is selling to the same set of buyers. So it seems like we are in a stage where there are more producers sometimes than there are buyers. Is that something that you're witnessing, or what are your thoughts about what's going on in our data and analytics space these days?
You know, it's a little different from what I'm experiencing. I think what you might see, of course, is the public references, those companies that are able to talk about their successes. And of course, I can't share numbers here of our growth and so forth, but one of the most amazing things that I discovered when I moved here is the breadth and the depth of types of customers that are using our software and solutions today. And so, you know, my observation, I've been here about a year and a half, is, you know, incredible explosion of use cases, innovative use cases, more users, more data, really, you know, propelled by the fact that it's never been easier to get access to a data warehouse in the cloud. I mean, just in our case, you know, to get in BigQuery, you don't need a credit card. You can use our sandbox, and you're there in like 3 seconds. Before the end of this call, we can be now launching queries and so forth. It's also never been easier to share data. We have a great product called Analytics Hub that allows you to create exchanges, external and internal exchanges. So it's really easy to share data in a scalable manner, in a secure manner. And so I think we're noticing that. We have thousands of organizations doing that today. And it's never been easier to innovate. You know, I think I look about machine learning and business intelligence. Certainly in our case, we have built-in capabilities both for machine learning that can be triggered by just a few lines of SQL. We have free business intelligence that's included as part of the platform in Data Studio. And so our situation, what we are witnessing is, particularly in the last year and a half, where digital transformation has really been at the top of the CIO's list. They've really been able to take advantage of this limitless, kind of frictionless experience onboarding on our data cloud that really has no limit, regardless the type of data and the volume of data and the types of workloads that you want on board, from simple SQL all the way to Spark workloads. And I know we'll talk about that, but really excited about some of the launches like serverless Spark and so forth.
So curious to hear, what are some of the biggest trends that you're seeing in the industry?
Yeah. So, and we do spend a lot of time globally trying to understand how do we build products that really match where these customers want to go to. The way we look at it is, we want to be the best innovation partner for these organizations end to end. They don't just come to us for a data warehouse. They come to us because they want to solve data problems at scale and build data products. And so, the first big trend is probably this idea of AI everywhere. And what I mean by that is, it used to be that machine learning was a separate workload, that it was really something that different personas inside the organization were, accessing to. You have to bring in the data scientists and so forth. And what we're seeing is customers today want machine learning inside their platform. We notice 80% of the top 100 BigQuery customers use BigQuery machine learning. And why is that? Is because you can trigger it with a few lines of SQL. It comes with the product. It's not something where you have to set up a different infrastructure, bring different personas and so forth. Data analysts can take advantage. So that's really the first one. The second one is this idea of convergence. And we talk a lot about it in the market. There is data lakes coming with data warehousing. There is AI coming inside BI as well. And so, these workloads are really interesting to us because we have a breadth of portfolio. We can allow you to do data lakes, we'll allow you to do data warehousing, which is really quite different from the other answers customers are getting, where it's kind of like hammers looking for nails, right? So if you go to a specialized vendor, a point vendor, every solution to your customer problem is going to be data warehouse. We don't view it the same way. We think that if you have options and flexibility, it's important. So it allows us to take into account these convergence kind of scenarios. And then the third trend is the opposite of that. It's almost like decoupling. Of course, we can talk about decoupling of compute and storage. That's all news now. I think if you're a customer and you're not taking advantage of that, you should. BigQuery's been doing this since 2010, I think. But what I mean by decoupling here is there's at least 2 or 3 layers here. One is decoupling of semantic and business logic. People talk about metric stores and so forth. And so for us, it's LookML, this idea of being able to have a universal semantic layer that can be built once and leverage across multiple applications. The second one is data governance. We have an intelligent data fabric that really enables organizations to take into account the fact that they have very distributed data, and they want to set central policies that are applied across their data estate. It's really hard to do today, especially when you have a multi-cloud environment. So we aim to solve that with artificial intelligence. And then, beyond that, you've got the topic of data ops and data access and data governance. And then finally, various compute engines, the ability to move beyond just SQL. How do you bring in Spark into your environment in a service manner so people don't have to worry about infrastructure and they can do their job and also only be charged for their job? That's probably the last trend that we see, is that now people are moving in mass into the cloud. They really want to partner with somebody that understands financial ops intelligently. So how you can assign costs accurately to the various departments inside your organizations to create, the data mesh. I know we'll talk about that, but the data mesh as a construct is really something that's taking off. Now you need the technical capabilities that are broad enough and complete enough to enable the organization to succeed there.
Do you see data mesh as an example of what we're calling decoupling or unbundling or disaggregation of the stack?
Yeah, in fact, I even have the book right here. See, something that I take very seriously. I think there's a few camps, right, in the data mesh today. There's people that will tell you don't worry about it. We've seen this. It's nothing new. It's kind of, I call the 3 Ds of data mesh, right? You the disciples, the detractors, and the distorters. And so the detractors, they're just going to say, don't worry about it. Nothing new. It's hard to believe that's possible because the customer interest in that has been really high. And so they're clearly seeing in the methodology something that's new to them. You've got the distorters, who are the companies that are saying, hey, just buy my software, and there you go, you've got the data mesh. And you and I both know that that rarely exists in the technology space, where you can buy one product that solves everything. And so that's a little bit of a problem. And then you got the disciples. I probably put myself in that camp because I keep going back to this, which is, okay, understanding the the construct and the theory, how do we make it real? And so for us, it's the combination of BigQuery and Dataplex and our financial ops model that enables you to really create these pockets of innovation across the organization without being disruptive to your current infrastructure, right? I mean, a lot of what organizations are dealing with today is that they have data on-prem, data in the cloud, data in multiple clouds, and they want products that are open and flexible and take into account their environment. Don't force them into their software design, but really kind of have an approach that takes into account what they're starting from. And so I think we're pretty good at that. And we certainly have lots of organizations that are making data mesh real today. I'm happy to talk about a few examples.
There is a lot of talk in the market about data mesh this, data mesh that, as you are saying, and companies claiming that they can do data mesh or some parts of it. So now you're saying that you've got customers doing this. I think the best way to educate or learn is to actually look at an actual real life experience. So can you mention one of your clients by name, public reference, obviously, who is doing data mesh, and what are they using? How are they doing this?
Absolutely. And I'm happy to add to this recording the links to the sessions that we did with that, because really that's been our approach is, instead of having a vendor approach to it, let's let the customers talk to
exactly
how they're doing it. So, the example of Snap, Deutsche Bank, Delivery Hero are the 3 companies I would send you to. And again, I'll give you but I'll give you kind of the summary. In the case of Snap, this is an organization, 280 million daily active users, 900 billion events collected. So highly distributed environment, real-time environment. And they want the ability to essentially, govern, catalog this data, and then do it in real time, right? So the combination of BigQuery and Dataplex for them is really important. That's, you would think, hey, Snap is probably a bleeding edge organization and they're digital native, and that's true. We work with both types of organizations, traditional ones and the digital native ones. And so another example is John, for instance, at Deutsche Bank. This is an organization that very traditionally had built applications in a former stack and now moving to our platform. And similarly, worried about governance of the data, centrally setting policies and creating kind of these hubs across the organization so people can innovate at the point of action, if you will, as close as you can to the location or the department and so forth. And then finally, Delivery Hero. This is, I'll send you the recording. Matthias is an incredible leader, because it's an organization that has grown from acquisition. And so they had a collection of different stacks. So if you don't know Delivery Hero, this is the largest global food network outside of China. They have 700 plus cities, I think. They have 45 countries. They've got 4 continents, 5 million orders a day. They create this data hub, 174 data sets, 6,000 tables, 2.7 petabytes of data, 7 million queries a month. So a lot of intense, very distributed environment where what they're trying to do is unify the way they look at the business across the various organizations they've acquired without disrupting the way the local business is run. I think that's really what's important. That's really been missing, is that in order to deploy something like this previously, you had to change habits and you had to change the local business. And really, that never gets adopted very, very well. I know we could talk forever, and I love my customers. There's a couple more I can throw at you.
So these 3 that you mentioned, Snap, Deutsche Bank, and Delivery Hero. So are these all production?
Yeah. These are customers. I'll send you the recording that you can listen to. And I frankly invite the community to connect with them, because these are leaders that have a great vision for where they want to go. And of course, they have best practices that everyone can learn from.
Are these, how true are these companies to Jean-Marc's definition of data mesh? Are they doing domain-driven, creating data products, and having control over the self-service data infrastructure with the governance?
And there's 6 dimensions, right, to the data mesh. And so, I think they're in the book here. And so, I don't know that I can check the box for all 6. It's probably a question to ask the customers directly. In the case of Delivery Hero, who I just talked to recently, it really is an incredible story because they were on a different cloud previously, and they realized that one of the aspects that was really slowing them down was not just the data technology itself, but it was the financial ops model, which I actually don't think is one of the dimensions of the data mesh. So I think that's one thing that I would add if the Mac would let me do that. And she and I talk regularly. Because it's important to have intelligent financial ops so you can make this data mesh a reality financially for your organization. That's really just as governance is as important as how you're making data accessible. Financial ops is as important, because if you don't have that, then it's going to slow you down in getting results. And so I would say watch the latest interview I did of Delivery Hero. Goes into a lot of details there. L'Oreal is another great example. The chief data officer wrote 2 blogs. It's not something I did with him. He took the initiative. He was so passionate about it, where he talks about, first, chapter 1, setting the technical environment. Chapter 2, setting the organizational blueprint. How do you organize your teams around it? And so there's a lot of innovations from these customers in practices on how to deploy the data mesh.
So since you mentioned that, this one example of client moving to Google Cloud, why are companies choosing Google Cloud?
Yeah, there are many reasons for it. If I think about an example like KeyBank, for instance, let's talk about a traditional, industry. Often they look at us because we are probably the best innovation partner to their business. And we have a breadth of portfolio that enables them to make this vision of the data ecosystem a reality for them, right? So, in the past, their options were loaded into on-prem in traditional, data warehousing that, were comfortable because you could kind of predict the cost and so forth, but they really were hindering because your growth, because you couldn't scale economically, physically, and then technically, if you will. When they move to our cloud, they not just have the ability to never worry about it. It's kind of a limitless kind of infrastructure. You can throw any data at it. You can throw structured, unstructured data in real time and batch. So it's really comfortable for them. It kind of, it removes these limitations they might have in the past. The pricing model really is a great match and is very flexible to what they want to do. And then the activation piece is right there in the platform, differently from other companies that might have a cloud version of what you had on-prem that might be first familiar to you. People, I think, realize quickly that is very limited because it's going to cost you more money, and it's also going to cost you more time. I look at a company like CNA, for instance. They just presented at the Applied AI Summit, we just did this past week, and they had the opportunity of lifting and shifting. But then they thought about it and they said, you know what? Moving to the Google Cloud gives us the opportunity to actually innovate, go from weekly insights to real-time insights and so forth. And the ability of doing that is really unique with Google. We have all these capabilities that are kind of liquid, if you will, available to them in a limitless fashion, really well integrated. What makes us different from the other vendors is, our ecosystem is integrated within itself, but it's also open to the environment you have. We talked about multi-cloud, where the only inter-cloud solution allows you from one pane of glass to get access to the data in all clouds. And so that's really differentiated. We're the only vendor that comes with machine learning right on top of BigQuery. And so that creates a lot of adoption very quickly for organizations. They want to get to results faster.
I want to dig deeper into this multi-cloud piece you mentioned. But before we go there, to be fair to the audience, let's talk about what are the challenges too. I mean, there are many options in our market, different product, different providers. So what would you say are the challenges that you face at Google Cloud?
I think the number one challenge is that people don't know enough
I see.
about our product suite. We don't do a lot of bragging, and it's not part of our culture that we won't do a lot of marketing campaigns or anything like that. We believe that if you experience the product, and many organizations do it across the world, you'll do the marketing for us. And so I think we run into a lot of organizations. I'll give you an example. Just this week, I was talking to a customer, and they didn't realize that connected sheets would allow you to connect directly to BigQuery and enable your finance analysts to tap into this limitless data cloud right from an interface that these financial analysts are familiar with. So, again, maybe this isn't the capability you're discovering. Of course, we know about them because we build them, but I think that's probably what's in the way for us is make sure that everybody knows that when you're partnering with Google, when you're onboarding with BigQuery, you're really getting a lot more than just a data warehouse. You're partnering into an ecosystem that is very powerful from a native standpoint, but is also very open to the rest of the ecosystem. And just another example this week, where a customer of mine had an existing AI workbench, and they didn't realize that partner actually was a strong GCP partner, and that they could, take advantage of BigQuery for AI workloads right from the marketplace. And they didn't realize how easy it was to make it happen. So I think that's probably our number one issue is communicating
Educating and communicating the market. What other challenges, if I may, just one?
Yeah. And also the other piece which we solved now for the last 2 years is having a moment for the data community to come together. So we created, first year that I was here, I noticed that our ability to kind of inform people was going through Google Cloud Next, and we have such a large community. Like I said, I can't share the numbers here, but it's a very large number globally, and we wanted to create a moment, and so we created the Data Cloud Summit, which happened about 2 years ago, and we did it again this year. Tremendous growth in that event, and now we're doing it in person in various locations. So in your city, you'll get a version of the Data Cloud Summit coming at you. I think this is another effort that we didn't have in the past, connecting more directly with our community and giving them the stage to share their stories as well. That's why you haven't heard much from us, but that's about to change.
Ah, very nice. Okay, so a lot of new announcements and new changes. We can expect to hear a lot more things. Google Cloud Next is coming up in October. Is that correct?
It's coming out later this year, but you don't have to wait for that because we're now doing cities by cities, Data Cloud Live events. And so you want to sign up for those to meet the product team, hear from other customers in your region, and ask us any questions you have.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to what you said about your products can run on multiple clouds. I know there was like BigQuery Omni had first come out on AWS. Tell us about your story, not just multi-cloud, but also hybrid multi-cloud, if you may.
Yeah, and this is a great one because I think what's different from Google here is we enter the relationship with all enterprise customers knowing that they've had some kind of experience in another environment, on-prem or another cloud. And they might have chosen these environments because they were familiar, they were convenient, they were inexpensive. But rarely those environments are the environments where they actually innovate. And so they come to us to say, hey, I have this first bet over here. How do I now take this to the next level? And so our approach was, well, we have multiple ways of doing this. We can just ask you to move all the data to GCP and then be wall-to-wall customer of Google Cloud. But that's really kind of not our approach. Our approach is first to accelerate your path to innovation. We've got to make sure that we snap into your existing environment. And so that's how BigQuery Omni got started. This is our intercloud solution. People think about multi-cloud as environments that are running separately into a defined cloud. So, if you look at other solutions in the market, typically that's what they're doing, right? So if you have a cloud data warehouse today, which most cloud data warehousing solutions today are VM based, essentially the same concept you were doing on-prem, but now it's running in the cloud. So when they say multi-cloud, they really mean one instance per
Yeah,
cloud,
I
which
see.
in a way, we found this is not very helpful to customers because increasing silos. So, you are doing this on-prem already. Let's not encourage that. So our approach is we want one pane of glass that is in BigQuery. So it's an environment you're very familiar. You're already running your request there. You're already bringing data easily, public data sets, Google data sets, our ecosystem data sets. We want you now, if you want to do end-to-end analysis on a customer journey, say, and say the data is somewhere in Amazon, somewhere in Azure, and somewhere in GCP, you can do that from BigQuery. You don't have to go anywhere. Basically, you're just sending the query to the data and the results that come for you to work with. Very, very unique. It's a product that we launched in GA, and it runs, of course, in GCP. It runs in AWS and runs on Azure today. And so it's really something I would encourage people to take a look at because it will really change the game for you. Because today the reality is that you really got to move all your data into one cloud to be able to innovate. And of course, if you want to do that, we won't stop you from doing that. But we also realize that sometimes the data that you want to work with is actually not data you control. It's going to be data from your partners, from your suppliers, from your customers. And so we want to make it as easy as possible to bring any data that you can put into an innovative environment like BigQuery so you can, build solutions on top of it.
If I have, so customer journey analytics is a very interesting example because we've got customers all over the world, but because
Yeah.
of data residency requirements, I'm not allowed to move some of the data across regions. So can I now use Omni where I have customer granular data in different locations on different clouds, but I can de-identify, aggregate it into a single view, let's say in the US. Is that something customers are doing?
Yes, that's right. So, and this is a topic that, very few people talk about, but we take it very seriously. Data sovereignty and also, global governance and cataloging. Where is your data? What is the metadata around your data and how you're creating landing zones? So we have a product that went GA earlier this week called Dataplex, which is our intelligent data fabric, allows you to create these landing zones across your data ecosystem. And so, we're probably the only company that can do that today and adds artificial intelligence so we can intelligently manage your estate. Our vision for that is that ultimately, things will just happen automatically, just like it happens today with data catalog, where within 3 seconds of data hitting BigQuery, it's automatically cataloged for you. So you don't have to worry about those things. So what we're doing is we're trying to help you with, our best capability of artificial intelligence, going from a complex environment that you have today to make it as simple as possible for you to manage it. And Dataplex is one such example of how you would handle issues like this one.
So we've talked about BigQuery Omni, Dataplex.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that you have a unique offering in your cloud data catalog where within 3 seconds you've tagged a new element, a new data element. And
that's
now
right. There's a lot of intelligence already built into the platform. And so the ability to catalog data immediately as it hits the database is an important one. There's also another one around helping you save storage costs. So for instance, if there's data stored in our platform that you're not using, but we believe that data is kind of like wine, right? It's you want to keep it as long as you can because at some point you're going to need it. Don't throw it away. We also are able to intelligently store it in a lower cost layer, so you can keep the data and not have to pay the price that you would pay if it was active data, if you will. And so we want to find ways to optimize for you, so you can work in a limitless fashion, right? So you don't have to throw away data or think about capacity. I think one of the issues today that's really an outdated concept is that when you start working with data, the last thing you want is say, hey, this is going to be this size or that size. We don't want to do that. We just want you to say, just add data, it'll just work. And this is true for internal data and it's true for external data. what is it, Mikasa Sukasa? I think a lot of it is me data, su data, right? It's this idea that, you might have data, Sanjeev, that I'm going to want to use and share. And I have data that you're going to want to use and share. In fact, what we're discovering is these customers, to be able to get to insights that are really meaningful to them, they find that a large portion of the data they need is actually outside their walls.
Yeah.
And so how do we make it more systematic, more liquid for them to bring that data in a governed manner so they can work and get to data products faster? That's really the mission that we're on.
Everything you're saying is literally every 10 millisecond, I have a new question that pops up in my head. Is it, should I be talking to you about FinOps? Should I be talking to you about data privacy? Because it seems like we are sharing data, data exchanges. There's just so many different topics that come up. So my question to you is, there is so much we can do and so much we must do. It's not, none of these are optional. What are Google Cloud's top priorities for investment?
Yeah, so the top priority here is how do we enable organizations to create data products? Because that ultimately, I think that is probably the best metaphor to show that you're a data-driven organization. You of course want a platform that is limitless, that is multi-cloud, that allows you to move from transactional to analytical workload. You want a platform that allows you to deploy your data mesh in a way that is secure and scalable, and where you have financial ops that allows you to, make this reality, something that you're also saving money while you're enabling innovation to occur. The step after that is now you want to build rich data experiences. So a couple of years ago, we bought this company called Looker, which people looked at and said, oh, this is a business intelligence tool. It's a lot more than that. It's LookML is the way that we build semantics that any application is going to be able to take advantage of, and not for 10 people, not for 100 people, for millions of people, because the experience needs to feel more like a google.com. Simple experience, but behind this beautiful page where you're just typing in or you're talking to the search engine, there's the mess of the internet, complex, disconnected data of all types and so forth. And I think that's where the game is at, right? If you look at some of the research I was reading this past week, IDC, I think, predicted that the world of application will be changed. 715 million applications will be built over the next 2 to 3 years. For context, that is more than what was built in the last 40 years. And so what we believe is that if we provide the capabilities from Spanner to BigQuery to Looker to organizations to use data as the source of their application, so build their application from the data up, they'll be able to create these rich data experiences that will enable their people, engage their partners, provide compelling customer experiences. Ultimately, that's how you lead to more value from your data. And the more we can do that in a way that is integrated within your existing environment, natively within BigQuery, and also with the partner ecosystem, from Fivetran to Data Robot, those are just few examples of partners we work with a lot. We'll then be able to accelerate your path to intelligent, rich data experiences. That's really what we're focused on.
This is an interesting 750 million new applications will be built. Wow, that's a huge number. So Bruno, I have an interesting theory. There is a huge monolithic set of apps that we don't almost ever talk about. And that's an ERP suite. Accounts payable, HR, and all kinds of these apps. And I think that would be one of those set of apps that'll get disaggregated and written to be more dynamic, more agile. As the data is changing, these apps will work off raw data files on object stores. Do you see that, like that concept of data apps happening?
I think that's where the space is going. I think, certainly CRM and ERP applications are here for a long time, and those are great applications that are built. I think what's happening, there's also, in addition to that, there's a generation of new applications that are built differently because they're built from the data up. If you think about these applications today, we talk about making that application, that process intelligent, which is valuable, but it's adding the data or the AI after the process and the data has been created itself. What I think we're seeing is people are starting from the data and realizing, okay, how can I build in recommendation from the ground up? How can I automate actions to occur in a relationship where you're more an opt-out relationship, where you as Sanjeev, here's what the model is telling us, you make the final call, here are the 5 options. Do you want to maintain this car today, or you want to wait until the end of the week if you're running a fleet, for instance? And here's the consequence: if you wait until the weekend, you're going to lose $20,000. If you get it to maintenance right now, you're going to gain 5,000, right? So intelligent systems like this that are experienced through what I see as rich data experiences, that are consumer grade experiences. And I think that's where every CIO and CDO wants to get to, is that is the representation, that is the artifact of how you finally putting this complex environment into an application that's driving action for you. I go back to google.com. It's probably the best data product that I know. Always available, very simple for me to engage, and I get a ton of value out of it that's personalized to me. This is done for billions of people, and I think that's what people, CIOs aspire to ultimately.
That is great. Sounds like for these intelligent apps to work and sort of interoperate with each other, we obviously need governance, quality, orchestration. But I think one of the important pieces in this seems to be data observability, to be able to understand what's going on and build a lineage. Is that something, what are your views on data observability, and where do you think this space is going to?
So I remember back when I was at Business Objects, we had a module called, I want to say, supervisor, where basically it was telling me if I was making a change on this report, it would tell me where it comes from and what else am I going to break, or if I'm making this field change, what is downstream, everything that I'm going to break when I do that. And so I think, if you think about this ecosystem and the ability to build these data products, there's enabling capabilities that absolutely are required. And we talked about data governance, data observability is another one. The ability to open the system to data science, let people work in Spark on the data that's also used by the applications. Those are important building blocks in your modern data stack. Today, of course, we have native solutions. We also partner with a lot of players in the space. Data observability is a very hot space right now. Lots of companies getting funded. Monte Carlo is an example of an organization that we partner with. And so it's an area that's really important to customers that we pay a ton of attention to. But again, I think the idea is, how do we partner into their ecosystem, particularly, when the data is also highly distributed, right? So sometimes you have data on-prem that you want to go and observe, and sometimes you want data that's in our cloud or somebody else's cloud to go observe. And so we believe in this kind of open ecosystem where we're bringing partners in when they're existing at the customer, and we're embracing their solutions so we can snap into them. A great example of another partner we work with very closely is Calibra for catalog, right? And areas where the customer's already using it and they want to snap into our solution. So it's a very vibrant space. It's very hot right now. And I think it's made more acute by the fact that data is really distributed today. And the prior solution was bringing it all into my data warehouse. And that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is a world of highly distributed data across multiple clouds. And you need an intelligent, open data ecosystem that embraces that, which I think is a unique value proposition from us.
Talking about leaving data where it is, minimizing duplication of data, movement of data, it reminds me that there's another product that came out recently that we love to get your views on. What is Big Lake, who's using it, and how?
So this is a product we just announced at the Data Summit. And the idea here is, taking advantage of the 10 plus years of experience that we have with BigQuery, managing data at scale, and for lots and lots of people. So, there's lots of requirements around concurrencies and lots of requirements for data types, structured, unstructured, spatial, and so forth. So we know a lot about that in our environment. And so what we wanted to do is been able to make it a lot easier for people in the community to basically open up that to the rest of the world. So now, Big Lake essentially allows you to work with data that's highly disparate, taking advantage of our multi-cloud and BigQuery capabilities. So you can kind of get into this ecosystem game, if you will, a lot easier. So it's not just data that's managed in BigQuery, but it's also data that is queried through other engines, Spark and so forth. And so it got a lot of reception. We just announced it, so I'm not at liberty to tell you more about specific customer names. But what I would say is that look out for more at Google Cloud Next, which is happening in a few months, because lots and lots of demand for that. And I think it's just related to this idea that customers no longer want to think about their workloads as separated, problems. They're looking at a holistic way. You can have a lake here, you can have a warehouse there. Their problem, to be honest, and a customer was telling me that a while back, is that the great thing about the term lake is it's very comfortable. You see the end of the lake. It's landlocked. But my problem is a data ocean. Actually, I'm stealing that from Vodafone. The chief data officer at Vodafone explained to me why an ocean is because I never see the end of the ocean. I don't see the end of my data. And so I need to partner with someone that understands that. It's not more data marts. It's not a bigger data warehouse size that you want. It's an ecosystem that allows you to store data however you want, bring in any data type, but more importantly, has embedded capabilities that allow you to turn this data into data product as fast as possible. And that's what's broken today, is like, we don't have a lot of solutions in the market that allows you to have this kind of construct for limitless data, limitless workload, and limitless reach, if you will. Every type of user should be able to self-serve to this data in a governed, scalable manner.
That is great. So, by the way, I've seen that statement, our data lakes are landlocked. And when I first saw that, I was like, isn't that the definition of a lake?
Yes.
Isn't lake always landlocked? Otherwise, there would be a river or a stream.
And that's the limit, right? And that, I think, people joked about them becoming swamp, but that's why it's very restrictive, right? And that's great. That's comfortable. That's familiar. But I think we've tried that. And I think what we've seen is that's not working, because naturally the data that you're going to want to bring in is outside the lake. And so what's your solution to that?
Yeah, that is true. So is Big Lake using like data virtualization, data federation capabilities? Is that the idea?
It's built on top of BigQuery. It's using the concept of BigQuery itself, and it's also using everything that we talked about here in order to open up to the rest of the ecosystem and allow you to work across your workload. So a great example, I don't know if we'll have time to talk about today, but people should also take a look at serverless Spark, which is our ability to onboard you on Spark today without having to worry about any infrastructure, and you pay at the job level. So we talked about financial ops earlier.
Yeah.
Often when you onboard with point solutions, you have to watch out that you're probably paying for more than you're actually using. And so we're really focused on, how do I enable you to do the work you want and really just pay us for what it is that you're consuming. We never want you to pay more than what you're actually using. And so that's kind of the design principle behind each of these products, is giving you a really limitless environment that is frictionless for you and is not going to cost you more than it should. And that's how Dataplex and Big Lake and BigQuery, all these products are designed around the same construct.
What is the smallest increment that you pay for serverless Spark? Is it like
it's at the job level, I think. So you don't have to pay for the actual infrastructure. And serverless Spark, you have 3 models for paying for it. And so you also have the flexibility of saying, look, if I want to pay for the cluster, I can do that. And if I want to just pay at the job level, I can do that. We're trying to make sure that people can move across workloads and not have to worry about too much about providing an infrastructure for each workload, because then it just becomes a different financial model to have to think about, that takes them outside of the innovation work that they're doing. That's why we announced model registry, the integration between BigQuery and machine learning and Vertex AI, so you can operationalize your model throughout the platform. It's really important. You can now in BigQuery work with your notebooks, which is really different, right? If you think about BigQuery as a data warehouse, you would kind of look at me and say, well, everything you're describing has nothing to do with data warehouse. And I think that's probably one of the unfortunate things, is we might compete in the data warehouse market, but we're actually not a data warehouse. We're a lot more than that, right? With BigQuery, where think about this machine that you just throw any data at it, any workload at it, any user at it, and it just works.
Wow.
That's kind of how it was designed.
Yeah.
And so that's why, this moving left and right across workloads is really important.
That is fantastic. So this has been such a great overview of some of the newer advancements in Google Cloud. I'm just curious, how does one keep up with all this influx of information? And it's not just from Google Cloud, it's from other cloud providers, from other products. So how do you keep up? Let me turn it around. What advice would you give to people who are starting afresh in this space?
So there are a few things. I think the first thing, if you're focused on Google Cloud, I would say the best way is to join our Data Cloud Summit events, and register for them. The Data Cloud Summit has been free for the last 2 years, and so this is a great way. You don't have to wait until Google Next. We're creating many moments for you to connect with us. It's true, you're right, that we are shipping a lot of new products on the daily basis. We are introducing as much innovation as fast as we can to respond to customer needs, because we're dealing with customers that are very innovative. They're moving fast, and so we're moving fast along with them. So Data Cloud Summit. Second is I would look at this program we have called the Data Journeys. Every Tuesday morning, I talk to a new customer. And so then you don't have to hear it from me. You can hear from how customers are actually adopting technology. And I would highly invite you to connect with them after you listen to the 10-minute or 12-minute interview, because that's how we learn too, right? It's through how real people deploy real world examples. And then finally, if I could just say that, because it's something that I've been doing now for 2 years in a row, every Sunday I do my little summary of the top 5 things that happen in the industry. And so I put that on LinkedIn. So you can follow me on LinkedIn, and then you'll get that every Sunday. I try to do this just about every weekend. So if I skip one, it's probably because one of my kids has an event or anything like that. But in general, every week I try to simplify it for you in the top 5 things. And they're never marketing promotional things for vendors. So if you're a vendor listening to me and you want me to promote your things, that's not what this is designed for. It's designed for chief data officers who have come to me and say, hey, very complex world, lots going on. Can you filter that for me? And that's how it started. It was a CDO that challenged me to do that, and I've been doing it now for 2 years.
Talking about every Sunday, I'm now so used to watching your podcast every week, and somehow I thought you might be calling in from your car. Please tell us you don't live in your car.
I don't live in my car. The reason for why I do it from my car is I was looking for a quick, low-tech way of doing it. And so car is always quiet, and it's easy for me. It takes me 5 minutes. I read a lot throughout the week. I meet with a lot of customers throughout the week. And so I just take notes throughout the week, and then I just summarize it in 5 minutes. So it's low tech for me, and hopefully low effort for the audience. It's been working really, really well. There's one more thing that I could add is we're about to introduce a data engineering summit later in July. And so that will be an opportunity for folks to join us. I don't think the landing page is up yet, but follow me, and then you'll be the first one to find out about it.
So Data Engineering Summit is coming in July. That's
right.
news. All virtual or combination of virtual? All virtual.
Yeah, it's gonna be virtual for now. We're also doing these in-person events, right? The Data Cloud Live events. So look up for that in your town if you're interested in meeting the team face to face.
That is great. So, Bruno, we are coming toward the end of our event, our show today. And usually I like to end on something which is personal, both serious and fun. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a personal question.
Sure.
So I've heard previously you've been public about your family being survivors of the concentration camps. if you're comfortable, can you educate us on how did it affect you and your upbringing, and what lessons, leadership principles do you learn from that?
Yeah, so I'm a proud son of Jewish and Italian immigrants. And my grandfather, my dad's dad, was a prisoner of war during the Second World War. His dad died in the First World War, and he went to war in the Second World War and got captured. When he came back, his entire family was gone. So he came back essentially to nothing. And this is someone I spent a lot of time with when I grew up, because he helped me with a lot of my homework, and for someone that had gone through so much abuse, was very, very nice. In fact, when I told him that I was going to Germany for college, he helped me with my German. And the only German that he knew was because he learned it from camp. And so I can only imagine what it was like for him to find out I was going to learn German, live in Germany, and then give me his German skills from being in camp. And so, what it's taught me is this idea of, if someone like this can forgive and persist, I really have nothing to complain about. I'm sure we have tough days here. And, I don't want to discard difficulties people are going through, but, I think about him. How can someone like this, that's been through so much, that's lost everything and had to rebuild multiple times, been able to persevere? I was watching the testimonial of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and she said the word, I think, that is really true, I think, is persevere. So if anyone's listening to us here, is you're going to get moments of discouragement. Just get comfortable with the uncomfortable and never give up. Persevere, because that's how things happen, right? So that's been my mantra, I guess, since I started here. And I have this photo here, and
wow, very inspirational. One last question. Tell us something about yourself that the world doesn't know.
So yeah, I'm fairly public about everything's going on. People know when I travel and so forth, because I love to take photos with customers and partners and so forth. And so people know also that I'm French. And in fact, when we started this, I said that I was French, and I feel very French because, as I explained, my grandfather, my great-grandfather was in the First World War, Second World War, fighting for France. I was born in France. I studied for 20 years in France. I speak French as my native language. And so recently I did a DNA test and I found out that it turns out I'm as Swedish as I am French, meaning I have 0% French in my blood. I'm the collection of Italian, African, Middle East, Spanish, Eastern Europe, every state you can think of, every country you can think of around France. In fact, I will publish on LinkedIn the map. And what's hilarious is it's all the countries around France except France. Like, I'm not even touching France, which is ironic because, my kids will tell you I'm probably maybe obnoxious a little bit too much about French culture, but it turns out it's not in my blood. So that might be a surprise to people. I will continue behaving as a French person.
Please do. Yeah. Yes.
It sounds like I'm not.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you on this episode. I always enjoy talking to you. Cannot wait to see what more things are up your sleeves and up Google Cloud's sleeves. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always fun to talk with you, Sanjeev. I'll hope to see you in person soon.
Yes.